I was mixing a track recently and I ran into this situation where we had a really plucky bass line that was really limiting how loud we could push the overall track. It was the first thing causing the clipper and the limiter downstream, kind of in the mastering chain, to start distorting. So I wanted to show you how I fixed the issue in this case without changing the track too much. This is the bass line. Let me just pull up the master limiter here. Right, so without anything else playing in the track, we're already getting like 4 decibels of gain reduction. So if I unmute this, right, we're starting to get like over 6 decibels of gain reduction. Maybe at a latter part, we'll probably even get more. Right, so that hit like 7.9, almost 8 decibels of gain reduction. And it's going to start introducing things like distortion and affecting our track in a way that we're probably not stoked about. So the way that I was able to address it in this case is I put a limiter as the very last plugin on the bass channel as a way to limit the final output of this channel. A nice thing about the Pro L2 is it has this 1-to-1 feature right here, where as I push the input gain, it automatically compensates the output gain. So we end up getting limiting taking place, but we don't actually get an increase in overall volume, which is what we want. And I'm going to duplicate this Pro L2 just so we can kind of see what the overall waveform is looking like with and without this limiter. So this is what the waveform looks like without the limiter. Right, it's really spiky and inconsistent, and that doesn't mean it's always an issue, but in this case, it was an issue, right? It was hitting our limiter a little bit too hard. So if we turn this limiter on, it's not like wrecking the bass line. We can still hear it really clearly, but we're getting a nice consistent output. Right, and this is inside the actual limiter, so we're doing a fair amount, right? We're getting like 5-6 decibels of gain reduction taking place, which is saving us 5 to 6 decibels of headroom on our master chain. And when you're dialing this in, right, so as you're kind of starting at 0, and you're starting to push the limiter up, I don't really care as much about how much gain reduction it's doing. I care about how it sounds. And in this case, I was able to push it far enough to the point where it was helping solve my problem on the master chain. And now if we take a look at the master channel, the first thing is the bass is now flying under the radar of this clipper. So we're not really getting as much digital distortion introduced. It's just helping tame those really high peaks with the music. And the last thing is we're getting a much more reasonable amount of gain reduction on our master limiter here. So as you get into that last stage of dialing loudness on your track, you can almost pull up your limiter and kind of see what's hitting the limiter the hardest and causing it to distort. And then if you're also the person who produced and mixed the track, you can make moves like this where you're helping save little bits of headroom throughout your track so that your master processing has an easier time dealing with it. Hope that helps.